All right, guys, good afternoon. This is Ham Radio 2.0. I'm Jason KC5HWB. This is going to be a special edition of the show today about spectrum defense. Okay, so it's going to post on Monday like it normally does, but we're going to talk about spectrum defense of the 3 and 5 gigahertz bands that's recently come under attack. They recently come under attack for some new proposals that the FCC has recently put out there that you can find in the description below. So you can find all the documentation here. We're going to be talking about that here in just a second. A special thanks to David KB5UGF for informing me of this. This is a fairly new proposal that was just put out, and we just want to get the word out there to everybody and get it in front of your eyes. So put your comments below, check the links below, find out how you can help and support this effort to combat the defense of our spectrum. Reach out to your ARRL section managers and division leaders and let them know about this video. So we're going to get started right now.
Shut up and sit down.
Okay, David, good afternoon. You are on camera.
Good afternoon, Jason. Good seeing you again.
Yeah, you too, man. I'm glad that I know that I talked to your brother quite a bit. Haven't talked to him in probably a month or so. But I know those last couple times you've done AREDN presentations down there at the MJARS Club.
Right.
I've been to some of them, not all of them. So I appreciate you thinking of me and thinking of getting this stuff out on YouTube so that we can go over exactly what's going on with these two different bands with FCC reallocation proposals as it is right now, and what we can do about it. So if you want to give us kind of a brief synopsis of what's going on. You sent me four documents, which includes a docket for both the 5 centimeter and 9 centimeter, which is the 3 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz band. And then you sent me a piece of documentation about AREDN's response to this, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then we have another document about what we can do, which you said there's a couple ways to do that. So go ahead and present. Just open it up, talk about whatever you want to, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, some folks may be scratching their head and wondering, well, what's all the hoopla about with 3 and 5 gigahertz? Who on earth uses that? A lot of hams probably don't even realize those are allocated to amateur radio. And this all started probably 15 or so years ago when inexpensive Wi-Fi equipment started becoming available, and people discovered that it was easy to modify the firmware on that and modify it for ham radio use. And as Part 97 users, we weren't constricted to the same power and antenna gain regulations that Part 15 users were. And that really launched this whole mesh network project and other similar projects around the country where we could establish these links that were a lot longer than your standard Wi-Fi links. And it was only recently then that the 3.4 gigahertz equipment, people discovered that it could also be modified. There is no commercial use for 3.4 in this country, just amateur radio, but there is equipment that is marketed in other parts of the world where there are commercial interests. So it was AREDN, and there's probably other groups too that have ported the 3.4, the 5.8 gigahertz, and other bands, 2.4 gigahertz and 900 megahertz for use in these mesh networks. And what these mesh networks do, in some cases, it's just a couple of ham buddies just setting up links, talking across town, and just using it as a hobby. But groups like ours, the Mansfield-Johnson Amateur Radio Service, which we call MJARS, the Ellis County Club, and other clubs in North Texas and really across the nation have set up some serious networks with some long links, using these networks to exchange video, computer data, APRS packets, VoIP, including phones and repeater links, basically anything you can do on a computer network that's Part 97 compatible. And many of these organizations use that in support of the agencies that they serve. Mansfield EOC, the Cleburne EOC, we support the fire. We're sponsored by the Mansfield Fire Department. We can provide support to the National Weather Service. In fact, it was an Ellis County weather camera that was tracking a lowering on a what was soon to be a tornado that went across Ellis County during the latest tornado outbreak, where that bad tornado tore up North Dallas. In fact, I got some video of the some power flashes from that tornado off of that camera, and they were live with the National Weather Service, telling them how they could view that camera on their website too through the mesh network. So we have we stand to lose a lot if we lose this spectrum, because providing these services to these served agencies just would not be possible by any other means. This equipment is inexpensive, off-the-shelf Wi-Fi and WISP, which is wireless internet service provider equipment, that is just not modifiable to other bands like the FCC is proposing that we use. So at least in the 3.4 band.
David, let me interrupt you there for just a second. You've got some sun coming through your window that wasn't there a minute ago, and it's creating a bad glare. If you could, well, you could do that too. I was just going to say shut the blinds, but
yeah, they are shut.
Oh gosh,
really
okay,
bright.
Yeah, it is.
I
okay,
see that now too. Let's try that. Move it way over to the side like that. Can't see my station as well, but we're okay.
Right. Yeah, that's better. Okay, that's good. Okay,
very good.
Good deal.
All right. So that's what's going to happen with 3.4 is we're going to just, the proposal is we're going to lose the band between 3.3 and 3.5, which is allocated to Part 97. And there's no concrete proposal as to where to relocate us or the federal government, which is the actual primary user of that. We are the secondary users, although I've never seen any federal government activity on that band. I don't think anybody has. One suggestion they have is to relocate us to 3.1 to 3.3 gigahertz, but our equipment simply won't go there. There are physical limitations to it. The AREDN development team is investigating workarounds, but it looks like there's some strict hardware limitations with maybe hardware filters and the specifications of the power amplifier chip, et cetera. So that would knock us out of the ball game on 3.4 gigahertz. We just would not be able to operate. Then on the 5.8 to 5.9 area, we would lose the ham exclusive area. They're actually, the proposal is twofold. The top 30 megahertz would go to transportation infrastructure. And I think Jason's going to put some terminology up there that describes what the CV2X cellular vehicle to everything communications is, which is part of the dedicated short-range communication system that will be expanded. It's already in place on certain frequencies, but it will be expanded nationwide. And this is going to allow wider usage of anti-collision systems on vehicles, perhaps data for self-driving cars, other vehicle-related safety communications that will be short-range, low power. That's the top part. And then the bottom part, they're going to give to the Part 15 users. And we would have to share with Part 15 like we do on the lower part already of the 5.8 gigahertz band. And it's not real crowded yet, but eventually it's going to probably be another traffic jam like the 2.4 gigahertz shared spectrum is. So we would rather, if we can at all, possibly keep what we've got that's exclusively ours, which is 5.850 to 5.925 gigahertz. It's a nice big swath of spectrum that allows us to have these super long links, point-to-point links, on both 5 and 3 gigahertz. That would really limit our ability to operate effectively if they took that away also. So that's what we're up against.
Okay. Okay, so just for everyone's reference, the two fact sheets that he's talking about are, well, they're called fact sheets. One of them is for the 3.1 to 3.55 gigahertz band, and one of them is for the 5.850 to 5.925 gigahertz band. They are linked in the YouTube description below. You can read through those. There's it's actually, there's one of them is like a 40-page document or 50-page document. The other one is 22 pages. But just read the first page. It kind of gives it a synopsis in the first page, so that's good. You read the whole thing if you want to. Maybe a lawyer would want to. It's kind of confusing. So
yeah, it's written in a lot of legalese.
Right. Yeah.
Cover sheet pretty much sums it up. And you can find further discussion too. I'm sure he'll post the link to the AREDN website.
Yes.
You can go to the forum section and do a search on that. There's a couple good threads going on this topic too.
Okay.
not only about the legal ramifications, but also what the AREDN development team is attempting to do as a workaround, as a solution to the potential dilemma that could evolve if we did lose these bands.
Right. Okay. So we have one of the documents you sent me is an AREDN. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is an AREDN response to these two proposals?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and talk about that then? And that's going to be linked below as well. That's going to be the third document linked below. And the fourth one will be what can we do about this? So let's talk about the
document he's referring to. You can actually read that also if you go to the AREDN website. It's in the on the home page.
Okay.
They always file. They always have some news articles on that front page, and it is called the ARRL Call to Action in Defense of Part 97 allocations in the 3 and 5 gigahertz bands. So basically, it's giving you some background on, as I kind of mentioned, about how the whole project got off the ground from the early days of high-speed multimedia and the development of different firmware to run on these routers. And then it goes in and discusses, actually shows the spectrum that we use and the spectrum that we share with Wi-Fi on 3 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. And then goes into somewhat of a detail about the FCC proposals, but not near as detailed as the FCC dockets actually go into. And like Jason said, there will be links to the dockets also that you can read.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what the AREDN article has. And
Good.
while you're at the AREDN website, again, go to the forums and do a search on FCC proposal. There's probably a number of ways you can search that. There's 2 good threads that will come up, and there may be more by the time you view this that you can read and see where we are in this battle.
Good. I'm actually looking at that website right now, and I'll do some screenshots and links, kind of overlays of the video when this goes live on editing on the back end. Yeah, there we go. FCC rules change will lock out software on new equipment. And
that was another issue that we were contending with a couple of years ago that's unrelated about
okay.
The government mandating that they make it either difficult, they being the manufacturers, either make it difficult or impossible to modify the equipment to go out of the intended band that it was manufactured for. And because and this all evolved from the interference with the TDWR, the terminal Doppler weather radar system.
Right. Yeah. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, that kind of, I guess there was some compliance that fell into place with Ubiquiti and Microtik and some of the other guys who were making the equipment that people were modifying, and it's kind of blown over. I hadn't heard anything about that, but yeah, it did make it a little more difficult to flash these units, but we're hams, we can find workarounds.
Yeah, totally. All right, I did find it was a third after when I searched FCC proposal, it was a third article down. Of course, that'll probably change by the time the video posts. But I have a forum topic up, says FCC invites your comments. Reason docket -19-348 and 19-138. So
that's one of the threads.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good.
There will be another one that I've contributed to also. I don't remember it's probably going to be under active topics. You might have to scroll down by the time you view this because it'll float towards the bottom more as more topics become active too. But
I see. Is it the one that Andre published?
Andre is in there. Let's see. There's another guy that's in there. Another one of the development team.
Okay.
And it kind of goes 2 directions. There's some legal ramifications discussed, and then there's some of the experimenting that's being done with the hardware and firmware that's being discussed also too in that thread too. And there may be more by the time you view this. More posts on those threads as well as additional threads come up.
Okay.
And I have found some other sources on the internet too. You might just do some Google searches on this too, that unrelated to this, the AREDN website, because AREDN isn't the only folks using these frequencies. There's a group up in the Puget Sound area of Washington called HamWan that operates on
I've
the
heard of
5
that.
gigahertz frequencies. And,
Yeah.
and there's other groups that use OpenWRT based modules that are doing other mesh and non-mesh applications on these frequencies. So,
Okay.
you know, this warrants their interest too.
Sure. Okay. Okay. So the important question that we're going to put here at the end is what can we do about it? I think you mentioned 2 different ways that we can respond to this.
Yes,
Okay.
we need to post comments with the FCC. That is what our section manager here in North Texas can't stress enough over and over to everybody. It doesn't hurt to write him or especially other section managers around the country, ARRL section managers. Some of them may not be as informed about this as ours is.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of people operating on these frequencies in this area, so he's gotten an earful. And his response is going to be that we as individual hams need to step up to the plate and contact the FCC ourselves. Also, the ARRL is definitely fighting a good fight with this, but we need to individually post these comments. 2 ways to file those comments, and Jason will have those links. There's a more formal link, comment link, and then there's what is called the express link, where you can post a more brief online comment.
Gotcha.
Don't get on there and rant. We need professional, business sounding responses with detailed explanations of what is happening in our area with these frequencies, what we are doing with them as amateurs to support our community, to support our served agencies, what kind of damage could result as a result of us not being able to use these frequencies. How many people's safety would be in jeopardy because we could not report seeing a tornado through one of our mesh cameras and either had no spotters, or we had to risk putting live spotters out in the field in the middle of these storms. So that's one nice thing about having these remote mesh cameras, is we can remotely view these. Most of these cameras are pan, tilt, zoom cameras that we can move around and not risk life and limb being out there. We need specific names of people and groups involved, either directly or indirectly. You don't have to have a mesh node in the air to file a comment. You can be in the periphery. You can be a first responder. You could be, especially your emergency operation managers. We have numerous ones in the Tarrant, Ellis, Johnson County area. And I assume also Dallas, Denton, and Collins, since they operate mesh systems also.
There's a huge mesh system in Denton County.
Yes,
yeah.
and a lot of these people rely on information that is passed over these mesh networks. It's not just the cameras. Like I said, we can do VoIP phone calls. We can do repeater links. We operate an APRS iGate through our mesh system, where we can track our assets out in the field. We practice this by doing public service events like communications for bicycle rides, for parades, and other public service events, and track our assets so we can put them where they are needed without any undue delay. This is great for helping the public service or the agencies that we support, but this is also practice for us as amateurs for when there is a real emergency. We'll already have the procedures down. We'll already know them, and we can get out and assist in whatever way we can.
Good. Excellent. Well, good. Hey, this is really good information. I've had the AREDN guys on this channel before, just talking about updates to the firmware, new stuff you can do, new hardware they're supporting, and this kind of stuff. And I've recorded 2 or 3 of their talks at HamVention over the last few years. So once I get this posted, I might try to reach out to some of those guys, Andre and Randy. I know those 2 guys pretty well, and maybe try to get them to talk about it, as well as the ARRL folks. But yeah, you made a really good point there back there, that we have a lot of mesh knowledge in the North Texas area, and probably in the Texas, Oklahoma, West Gulf Division overall, I would assume. But some sections and some division managers out there may not know about this sort of thing. So yes, reach out to your section managers, even if you're not an ARRL supporter, which there's been several videos on this channel lately, mostly on the YouTubers bunch where I talked to several other YouTube guys, and for the most part, most people are supportive of ARRL, but there's a few people that don't want to support them for various reasons, and that's fine. Yeah, everybody's got an opinion. That's okay. But reach out to your ARRL. Spectrum defense is one of the most important things ARRL does. It's one of the most valuable things they do. So reach out to your section managers and your division leaders and anybody else you might know somewhere in the ARRL, and tell them that this needs to be a hot topic for them. So if they're not already aware of it, they need to be aware of it. If they're not already talking to somebody about it, they need to be talking to somebody about it. So this is really great information, David. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this with us today.
It's really important you mentioned the ARRL Spectrum Defense Fund. I think a lot of hams know it exists, and that's just about as far as most people go, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But that is our voice. The ARRL is our voice in Washington. We are up against, and by the way, one of the proposals for the 3 gigahertz is eventually going to be the expansion of mobile and portable broadband. In other words, 5G is what they're looking at, and right. you know who's behind that. Big telecom with their high-dollar lawyers and lobbyists, and that's what we're up against. So, we have to hire our own, and by we I mean the ARRL, I should say, has to hire their own lobbyists and lawyers to combat this, and that takes money. That's what the ARRL Spectrum Defense Fund is for, and it is grossly underfunded. That was something I didn't know. That was something that Steve Lott had told my brother. That was forwarded to me. So not only do we need to speak up and have our voice heard, but we need to take our wallets out and donate to this fund. I know in no way represent the ARRL other than being a member and understanding the important job that they have. Mm-hmm. So please, by all means, contribute to that. And that would be also a good time to post your comments to the ARRL while you're donating to that fund too.
Definitely. Yeah. I got that page pulled up right here. So that's another link that'll be shared down below, and I'll do an overlay over this as well. So, all right, perfect. Hey, very good, David. I suspect that once we post this video, due to comments and where it gets shared and all that kind of good stuff, there's probably going to be some questions come up. There's going to be some response to it, mostly from just amateur operators in the community, maybe from ARRL, maybe from some other folks. So I might follow up with you in a couple of weeks. If we've got about until mid-January, roughly, you said, maybe follow up with you around the first part of January and see if you want to do a follow-up and see what it's looking like, if we've learned anything new, if we have any responses to replies and feedback we've received from this video and that kind of thing. But the more information we can get out there, the better.
Excellent. Yes. And also another comment, and this probably, the FCC probably isn't as concerned about this as us hams should be, but our hobby over the last couple of decades has kind of morphed, has kind of changed a little bit. Well, you notice we dropped the code requirement for HF, and there's a reason for that. There's other forms of communication in the amateur service that have evolved and really taken hold. A lot of digital communications has evolved. Some would say, well, the very first ham radio was digital, with the ones and zeros of Morse code.
Right, totally.
With CW. But there's a lot of different types of digital communications. Most of it is what you would consider narrow band, though, when you consider the capabilities that a computer network has, how wideband that is, how you can have multiple video signals, just like what we're watching right now, going through a stream that's carried over Part 97 spectrum. And, we don't want to lose that. There are a lot of newer, younger people that are interested in ham radio. Some of them are hams already. Some are considering becoming hams. A lot of these people have computer skills that dovetail nicely with the technology that we use on these mesh networks that we use to serve our agencies. And taking that spectrum away would be very cause a lot of hams a lot of young folks that might otherwise be hams to just not even consider getting their license, or it really discourage a lot of young people that are already hams. So we need to think about the future of ham radio too. It's not just the spectrum, but the people involved. We've got to keep this hobby alive with warm bodies joining, and some of the old guys are moving on. We don't live forever, and we got to replace them with some of these younger hams, and got to have something to hold in their interest with. So it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, great. This is, like I said, this is very good information. Thank you for sharing today. And I'll send you the link when it's posted, and hopefully you can share it with your clubs down there. And of course, I'll share it with everybody up here as well, but it'll be up on YouTube for everybody to see. But then the more people we can get it in front of who watch it and have comments on it, the better. So appreciate you being here today, David.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me. And I was just trying to see if I had any last minute comments on this. I think I just need to go back and stress again that you need to file a comment with the FCC and be very specific, because they don't really care about the hobby aspect near as much as they care about the public safety aspect, about what's at stake. What are we doing for our communities that would be sacrificed if we lost the spectrum, and what public officials are involved with this that know about this. These are votes. These people go out and vote for their congressmen. They go out and if they are affected, if the voters are affected in a negative way, it could backfire on these FCC officials. So
that's true.
We need to look at that aspect of it, and not just the hobby aspect, which is great. The hobby aspect, it's fun. It's fun doing this, or we wouldn't do it. But it's also a public service that we provide. Right.
Okay, good. Well, once again, thank you very much. This is good info, and appreciate everyone's comments below. Appreciate everyone send the link to this video to your section manager. Send it to any ARRL officials that you might know. Share it with the clubs you're in. You say, well, I don't really have anything to do with the ARRL. That's okay. Put it in front of your clubs. Put it in front of other ham radio operators, because every ham radio operator, whether you are a member of the ARRL or not, has a voice. And just like David said, even first responders and public officials, they have a voice too. Anybody can talk to FCC. FCC is a government organization for citizens of the United States. If you're a citizen of the United States, you can get on the FCC's website and tell them that this is a bad idea. And that's what we ask you to do here today. So 73 guys, thank you for watching. Share your comments below, and we will catch you next time.